Hi all, this is Allmighty and welcome to this video. So today I have prepared you a game between Veselin, Topalov and Viswanathan Anand. It is actually a game suggested to me by a subscriber, and he suggested in a way that maybe I should cover a match, but I decided maybe to start with a round 1 of the actual match, and then maybe if you want for some reason for me to cover the whole match, then I would maybe go with round 2, round 3 and so on. So starting with round 1, here we have Veselin Topalov as challenger. Here with the white pieces starting the whole match, and Anand, the reigning world champion in 2010, with the black pieces. So a couple of words before the match. Of course, you probably know both of the players at that time at their peak. Veselin Topalov won a challenge match, against Gata Kamsky, an 8-round match, and he deserved the chance to actually challenge here Viswanathan Anand for the World Championship title. The match was played in Sofia, Bulgaria, and for those of you who don't know, actually Topalov is from Bulgaria, and it might seem strange since Anand was the world champion that a match is being played in Bulgaria itself. But Anand had a chance to complain about that. He didn't. He thought, okay, yeah, we can play wherever you want. I'm feeling good, and that is what happened. So psychological games right from the start. But also Topalov had some psychological games of his own, because he said that he doesn't plan to talk with Anand throughout the whole match. So we already knew that there will be some fireworks in the game. So that being said, let's just jump into the round 1 of this World Championship match. Topalov with the white pieces starts with d4, and Anand responds in knight to f6, and after a couple of moves on the board we have the Gruenfeld defense. And the Gruenfeld defense did start to become popular at that time. Of course, here both Anand and Topalov were very well known for playing this opening, and also Topalov did employ this opening against Gata Kamsky in that challenger match, which he played in 2009. So let's see what happened. Of course, they played the main line, pawn captures on d5, knight captures on d5, and after that e4, knight captures on c3, pawn captures on c3. We have a bishop to g7 and now bishop to c4. A pretty standard thing for Topalov. He liked to play this line with bishop to c4. c5 and now knight to e2, defending this pawn and also maybe this pawn if there will be ever a plan to capture on c5. Knight to c6 and now bishop to e3, solidifying the center, and now we have castles by black and castles by white. So we could say that kind of the development is finished. And this is the first turning point in the match. Here in this situation, I would say the main line that is played is bishop to g4. Yeah, Anand didn't want to go into this because this has been played a lot of times. Both of the players were very well prepared. This is something that was also played, for example, in the match between Kasparov and Karpov. f3 followed, and here after knight to a5, there is bishop to f7, rook to f7, and after pawn to g4, the game just continued, and they played a lot of games like this, and Anand didn't want to go into this. Also, after bishop to g4, we saw, for example, once again f3, but now pawn captures on d4, pawn captures on d4, and now knight to a5. Bishop to d3, defending the bishop, and here we have a bishop back to e6. But the thing is, in this variation, Topalov had a really, very good results. After d5, sacrificing the rook on a1, after bishop takes and queen takes, sacrificing the exchange, Topalov enjoyed a lot of success in this line, so this is why Anand didn't want to go into all of this. So instead of playing bishop to g4 and also queen to c7, which is a very sharp line played by Smyslov, Anand prepared the third most common response, which is knight to a5. And now we have bishop to d3, just moving the bishop out of the attack, and b6. So b6 solidifying the c5 pawn, and after this queen to d2. And this move comes with an idea, of course, playing bishop to h6 to go exchange this bishop. Now e5 and e5, okay, For those of you who don't know, this is actually a very modern move, so previously it wasn't played. E6 was played and moves such as these. But this is actually first played and prepared by Peter Svidler. Of course, you all know Peter Svidler. And he explains this because here to actually play d5, this isn't that good for white, because black always has an option to play f5. And with this move, try to undermine the white center. Of course, you cannot capture. Black will simply recapture, have a strong center, and be able to push e4, and this pawn will be weak throughout the whole game. Also, at the same time, after, for example, bishop to g5 and queen to d6, c4 isn't an option because simply you can capture. Bishop needs to capture, and then knight to c4. And black is simply better here in this position. So, after all this, after e5, Topalov didn't go for this. He played bishop to h6, so continuing with his plan. But now we have pawn captures on d4, pawn captures on bishop captures on g7, king captures, and pawn captures on d4. Pawn captures on d4, and already in this situation, black is a pawn up, but this pawn could be easily captured, and this is why Topalov goes for this line. He sacrifices the pawn, but he gains some activity. First, he plays rook from a to c1, but also I would like to go over some other line which he frequently played and also played against Kamsky, which is f4. But after a couple of moves, f6 stopping e5, for example. Okay, e5 can be played, but f6 is here to actually undermine it. Bishop to d7, pawn captures, queen captures, knight to g3 and king to h8. Kamsky didn't really have any problems with black, so this is why Topalov decides to change his variation. But even for rook from a to c1, Anand is prepared. He plays queen to d6. Now f4 because e5 is coming with a tempo, and now f6 stopping it. And since e5 wasn't really a move that bring all that much of luck to Topalov, he decides to play f5 in this position. And f5 is actually a very good move, very good positional move, because it attacks black's king side, and also it opens up this diagonal for the queen, this square for the knight, and the white can simply continue with the attack. We have queen to e5 and now knight to f4. Now further attacking this g6 pawn. So g5 and now quite simply knight to h5. If you go king to h6, try to attack the knight, then simply g4, and this king is locked in of the pawn and of the knight. So quite simply isn't a good situation here. So you have to go back, king to g8. This was played in the game, and now we have immediate h4, attacking the pawns. h6, pawn captures on g5, pawn captures on g5, and now rook to f3. Topalov continues with the attack. He is a pawn down, but yeah, he is still the one that has the initiative. And here is actually the crucial moment in the game, because here Anand just misses the correct continuation. There is actually one move that continues the game, and for black with equal chances, and that is bishop to d7. And why bishop to d7? Well, as you can see, white will have an attack whatever you do with black pieces, but it's very important to limit the flexibility of white's pieces. As you can see, probably after some captures here, when you will, okay, I will show it to you as the game progresses, how did actually the pieces move. You will see that rook to the c7 is a very great resource for white. And this bishop to d7 kind of limits that behavior, because it blocks the 7th rank and brings a possibility to defend this bishop, or maybe to transfer with king to f7 to e8. But Anand mentioned later on in the interview that he was trying to remember his preparation and that he simply missed the right continuation. Here he played king to f7. And this gives a possibility to Topalov to just finish the game beautifully. He plays knight to f6. So he sacrifices the knight for the attack. And here, what you can do is you just have two options. You can capture either with the king or with the queen. Whatever you do, it will end in the same result. So king f6 was played in the game, but if queen to f6, it is pretty much the same. You have rook to h3, which you can play, and now if you want to block this, then rook simply captures on h8, queen captures, and rook to c7. After rook to c7 you move the king, and now queen to g5, and as you can see there is a threat of checkmate, bishop to d7 defending that, queen to g6, king to d8, and queen to d6. Mate will follow soon. You have to defend, but after bishop to b5 and knight to c6, bishop can simply capture, and this is losing for black. So because of that, I would say this is one variation why this isn't good. If you, for example, go king to e8, move the king away, then rook to h7, rook f7 blocks, but now even e5 works. The queen doesn't have a square to go to besides d8, but that isn't good because of threats that will ensue, like capturing e6 and f6, opening up the position. So queen captures, and then you simply lose the queen after rook to e1. You can capture the rook, but this comes with a check. Rook covers, rook captures, king captures, and queen to g5. You have a queen and a bishop against these pieces that aren't developed, and this is pretty much winning for white. So here king to f6 was played, but the idea is pretty much the same. Rook to h3, and now we have rook to g8. Idea behind the rook g8 is to defend the g5 pawn as well. But we have rook to h6 check, king to f7, rook to h7 check, and now king to e8. Black, it seemed, did kind of escape for the moment. But now what happened is a rook from c to c7. The rooks are connected, and now you see if bishop was on d7, okay, of course the king wouldn't be here, but still, if bishop was on d7, this rook to c7 wouldn't be possible. And now the threat is, of course, to play rook to e7 and of course bishop to b5. So if you play, I don't know, something that doesn't make sense, it's difficult to say what is good at the moment for black, but whatever you play, bishop to b5 will be the next move, and follow. If queen captures on b5, of course you want to move the queen away, queen to d4, and even checks on e7. So here king to d8 was played to move the king out of this diagonal, so there is no check, but Topalov played bishop to b5 nevertheless. And here, if a queen captures, as I said, queen to d4, and now you play, okay, if you play the king here, then rook checks, king f8, and this is checkmate. And if you cover with the bishop, then once again, this is check, you cannot capture, king to e8, check again, king f8, once again, this is checkmate. So here, in this situation, instead of capturing on b5, we saw queen captures on e4, and Topalov simply played rook captures on c8, and then it was in this position that Anand resigned the game. So the first round of the World Championship match ended in 30 moves. It went to the challenger Veselin Topalov, and this gives him a great opportunity to actually go and win the championship. Why is this so bad for black? Well, simply, if you need to capture. If you capture with the rook, then rook to d7, king to e8, rook to d4, and you lose the queen. Whatever you play, rook simply captures, and you are just in a better position, even that you will checkmate the black very soon. If you don't go for this option, so if you capture with the king, then a nice queen to c1. And if you play to b8, this is checkmate, and if you play to d8, this is also checkmate. So here you need to cover, and the best way to cover is knight to c6, but then bishop to c6, the queen is attacked, the rook is attacked, you have to play queen to e3. Queen captures, pawn captures, and now bishop captures on a8, and after all this attack, in the end, white ends up being a piece up, and okay, here's a pawn down, but not even this resource of this passed pawn is enough for white to actually go, for black to actually go and make some threats. So bishop will go out, probably on f3 here, and then the game will just continue, but white is definitely winning here. So yeah, and this is pretty much it for this game. I would like to thank the subscriber for suggesting the game, and once again, a couple of things I would like to mention. If you're interested in me covering the rest of the match, definitely mention it in the comments down below. And second, I forgot to just show it in the description yesterday, the links to the chess cafe in Prague, so I will do it once again today. And that being said, I would like to thank you for watching this video, and I will see you next time.